Shalom, it's Jacob from Abba Echad. I just want to show you how to use the mobile site. And so let's reload the page and see how it would start, how you might see it when it begins as a regular page, kind of as a mobile page. And so the key is that when you log in on your mobile phone, go to the settings, click the three dots at the top, and make sure that you select desktop site. Okay, once you hit that, it's going to reload properly, just like it would be on an actual laptop screen and whatever. And now you can begin to play. You see your whole menu and everything is there. You could click the button to open up the parsha. And then scroll down to the parshat this week, Parshat Ki Tetzeh. So if you want also to zoom in for a second with two fingers and then zoom back out and then click inside, and that should disappear. Okay, and I see that we've already been here. So I'll just go ahead and reset the Torah layer, reset the Targum layer at the same time. Okay, and this is how the game would begin. And let's do it. Bezrat Hashem, Parshat Ki Tetzeh on the mobile phone. And so in order to begin, I would just delete extra titles because we really already have the title, although it doesn't seem so for this week's Parsha for some reason. That's kind of interesting. I'll double check that on the actual site. So you could either keep the title there or not. That's up to you. Okay, once we zoom out. Right, okay. Once you delete the title, I would then just delete the extra space, so it just begins with the text of the Parsha. So you have the Torah books icon here. You have Birkot Torah here, which I'm going to say because I took a nap and woke up. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. V'harev na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratecha b'finu v'fiv amecha Beit Yisrael v'ni anachnu v'tzatzaiin v'tzatzai amecha Beit Yisrael kulanu yod'ei shemecha v'asekei Toratecha Baruch atah Adonai hamlamed Torah le'amo Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Toratho Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Once you say it, you click the occupying Torah button or click on the side, because it's supposed to say a blessing before actually learning Torah. And sometimes when you switch pages, it looks like nothing happened because it's really zoomed in on like a white part of the page. And I have no idea why that little glitch is, so we'll sort that out. But just in case that happens to you, just know to zoom back out so you could see the menu. Okay, so we accidentally click Vayikra. Zooming back in, Parshat Ki Tetzeh, and all your progress is automatically saved. So this is a good example of that. So everything we just did is going to be exactly as we left it. There it is. Okay, so now click inside the text, and that vanishes. So now the goal of the game is to make space for the Targum, and the real goal is to do Shnai Mikra Ve'echa Targum. And what that means is to go through the Mikra, Ma Nikra, as you see in the menu. Ma Nikra is that which we read, in plural. Nikra, we will read, in plural. So Ma Nikra, this is what we will read. What will we read? That which is written and scribed, of course. And that is the scribed written Torah, which is Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, and then it's abbreviated Tanakh. So that includes Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, made of these three sections. And so the sages transmit the mitzvah of Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. Twice you read the Mikra, the scripture, and they're referring to here specifically the weekly Torah portion. Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum, as the sages say, Mashlim Parshiotav, whoever fulfills the Parsha together with the congregation, Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. As Rabbi Yehuda says from Rabbi Ami, then ma'arichin lo yamav u'shnotav, they increase for him their days and years. So reading the parsha twice, ve'ehad targum, and one time with the targum, which is the parsha explicitly, stated explicitly, and it's the partner, helper to the text. Okay, and so we will see all of that, but it begins so simply, and the key is right now it's like beautiful, but it's so much text. It's a little bit scary for a second. And that's what we're going to do right now is the process of breaking down the information, and you'll see how beautiful it's going to look. And basically, the better you understand Tanakh, the more beautiful your actual page will look. It will reflect. Okay, so here we go. Okay, the easy way, well, again, you'll get your comfort level, but an absolute beginner doesn't even really need to know how to read. They just need to know that Hebrew is from right to left, so we're beginning, the top right, and we're moving to the left. And then those two dots at the end of a word signify that that is the end of a verse. And so you could click there and then just hit enter. Oh, I got my camera menu there. Just hit enter or return. Zoom back out. Okay, so that's one verse that was broken down. Here's the end of another verse and another verse right there. So we'll just hit enter here. Okay. Enter. And then click after here and hit enter again, because we just see that that's a verse. Okay. Here we are. We've just broken down 3 verses. And now we could see, first of all, this verse is a run-on, it's a very long verse, so it wraps to the next line. And so we're going to half that as well. So we're going to click the next symbol, to look out for is this symbol. Or you might see differently. When you load your font, you can go into the settings menu to select this Ahava Echad K'tav HaShurit font with the perfected symbols. Although we have to fix the placements, the actual symbols are much more as they appear in the manuscripts. But Ki tetzeh lemilchama al oivecha. So that's also, and the goal is to leave a complete phrase. Okay, there the title returns, so we just had to scroll up kind of. But Ki tetzeh lemilchama al oivecha. When you're going to, go out to war. We'll explain the English translation more, and please see Zrat Hashem, the video that we'll upload about the dealing with these kind of serious topics of Parshat Shoftim, seemingly. What do you mean, how is it, well, we'll go into it in the videos, but we don't have to bring it into this video. But anyway, as you can see, we broke down that verse, and every line has a bit of information. We're leaving a bit of information on each line, as well as you notice a space between every single sentence. That is where the Targum is going to go, immediately under the words, and we'll see that in just a few moments. We'll break down this last verse here, and then we'll begin to line up the Targum to the Torah. Okay, so here we go. We broke down 3 verses, and each verse breaks in half at this symbol, the etnachta, the second strongest break, and then the 2 dots, signify the end of the verse there. And now, let's get into the Targum layer. So in order to do that, you notice at the top here, you have the green eye, means it's active. You could see it. So let's turn on the active layer on the Targum, and there you go. So it starts to display it as a bunch of text over the Torah layer. So we're going to adjust all that right now and show you how to do it. And in order to switch here on mobile, just simply click Targum. And now the active layer is the Targum itself. And now when we click inside, it'll be within the layer of Targum. We could zoom in and move the cursor there. Zoom back out right before the very first word of Targum, and you'll see why in just a second. And now our goal is to lower the Targum so that it lines up with the line that we've created, the space that we've created for it there. And so we'll hit enter, and now you see the Targum has dropped below the first line of the Torah, and that's exactly what we want. And now begins the fun process. And so here, we're going to begin to now push the Targum and line it up under the Torah. So we're going to hit spacebar. We could delete that little dot there. But now we're going to hit the spacebar. I guess I have the settings in the Ahava Echad Hebrew QWERTY keyboard that 2 spaces, equal a dot. As I included that feature for one of my friends who's used to that from his old mobile phone. And so anyway, you could download the Hebrew QWERTY keyboard so that you could use to type, and we're going to program it that it'll work in tandem with the actual website. So not only will it enable you to type Hebrew super easy on your mobile phone, everything phonetically, exactly as it came on a Mac. You know, from factory settings, you could just go, if you have a MacBook right now, you can just go inside your settings and change it to allow you to type Hebrew QWERTY. Okay, so sorry, I was talking about some other things while I was doing other things on screen. So I think we got the idea when we were pushing the text, right? The goal was, I'm just gonna like undo a little bit of what we were doing. Okay, here we go. So as we said, we started to push the text along, and once it gets under the Torah word, once the first Targum word lines up with the first Torah word, we're gonna leave it in place, because that's how to just say that in Aramaic. That's how we'll start for right now. That's what we understand right now. That's how we're taught right now, and that's what it is. So ki is are in Aramaic. Tetzeh is thipok, to go out. Okay, that's how to just say that in Aramaic. And now we're continuing. Are is left in place. Tipok is now left in place. Here at the space bar, we're going to now move lemilchama. Okay, and here is just because I knew from experience, but, you know, as we'll line up, assuming all of a sudden, you know, if we're just going to line up, if we think that it's word for word, you know, this is a good example of that. All of a sudden we see the word al, right? That's the word al. We know now that al is supposed to line up with the word al. So there's like two words in the Targum here. You know, so that's what we'll notice, and that's when we could incorporate and implement the colors, you know, to change the colors. And in order to do that, you simply click on it. And once it's highlighted, let's see if it works on the mobile. Once you could highlight something, you know what's good? Maybe if you could even just line up on the mobile and then log back in on your desktop. I don't understand why it's not even like highlighting the word before. Okay, there it is. We highlighted the word, and normally our menu, our color menu is supposed to pop up. So it's not doing that right now, but it is on the desktop. It's really built for the desktop, but I just wanted to demonstrate this evening how you could even learn and use, and it has a lot of functionality even as is, but obviously everything will be improved so that we'll be able to have that. So anyway, you have two words in the Targum now. Le'agaha kerava, to wage krav, which from the word karov, which is close quarter combat. And in modern times, krav maga is close quarter combat. Maga is touching, maga is hitting, you know, to be physical contact. It's actual martial arts, you know, so anyway, like that. So, kitetse al oyevecha. So now we're lining up, and also we notice here, oyevecha has two words, ba'alei devavach, the sort of, the owners or possessors or masters over devavach, of bad blood, of ill will, of some kind of, they're enemies because in their minds they understand, they misunderstand what actually happened, or were taught by the other side that perspective and never heard this other side, or the true side, obviously, because we're not here to lie. The Aleph Bet are the truth itself on the face of this earth, so there's no lying. And if you understand that God is real, then obviously there's no lying, and there's no harming people, and there's no harming creatures, really. And everything is done in a humane way, even when humans do need to eat an animal or whatever. Okay, and so when you will go out to wage close quarter combat back in the day and over your enemy, and again, the levels of metaphor, and which level is it, because, you know, the Yetzer Hara is called in oyev, and to wage war is an internal, you know, is this a battle within and all these kinds of things, or is it on every level? So it could happen physically and on all these things. So I'm in this place with you that I do not understand yet the line, what is, because it doesn't matter. The thing is true conceptually. It doesn't matter if it even happened physically, although we know that it did, because we have to know that it did, that's how it happened, because literally the places from the Torah are the same names that they are today, even before anything, you know, so the names are there, the places are there, the directions are there, the descriptions are there, the symbols of the alphabet are everywhere. the truth is evident to anyone who sees it, obviously. But, we haven't been shown, and it's not our fault. And the goal is now to make it known, to see it, to come back to it on every level, every person, on any age, any background. And as Rabbi Isaac Mosedson Shlita and his whole family teaches Edenics, the concept that everything, all the words in all languages literally are traced to biblical Hebrew. And the true conspiracy to shut out this knowledge from the world, because it would lead every human back to the source, the obvious source of all the, which is sources from Shoresh, and the obvious source of the roots of words in all languages. The rabbi is an amazing individual. I'll just mention here in case, But anyway, apparently in the latest video, the Rav was explaining that unfortunately he was, hit in a explosion in a terrorist attack. And that's why it's hard for the rabbi to speak. And so he had a professional voiceover guy narrate the actual information, and he would take questions and comments, after the presentation. It was really amazing. And an amazing group of people who ran that presentation. So it's very beautiful to see in this concept. And the goal is to just spread the true information. And so if I can do my part to give credit where credit is due, obviously, Rabbi Isaac Mosedson Shlita, Hashem Yishmereu v'Yachayeu, and his whole family, which means may God bless him and his entire family and protect them and give them everything good and sweet, for literally, fighting and being on that side of the world, of just the world is going to try to deny you and try to claim all these things, or censor, hide you and hide this information and all these kinds of things. Discredit it too is where it gets really nasty. Try to pretend that there's all these kinds of, God forbid, but anyone who's alive and awake can really understand the roots of words in all languages. The Torah is true and only, spits fire, literally, where that concept even comes from, like the angels spit fire, but God, creating everything. Okay, so as we were talking, and that's actually a highlight of the game, is that as you're doing this, it's therapeutic. You can be listening to a lecture or podcast, but you're fulfilling this commandment of Shnai Mikra Ve'echad Targum, because so the first time when we were just going through the Mikra, and I'll just hit the green icon to hide the Targum for a second. When we were just going through the Torah layer, then, that's our first time going through Mikra, Shnai Mikra, right? We need to do it twice. So this is the first time going through. Just simply breaking down the verses. Okay, so here we go. Here's the end of another verse right here. Let's click into that. Hopefully it works. Oh, no. So we switched to Mikra. We switched to the Mikra layer. Let's see if it works, and if not, then we'll just wrap it up here. Okay. But the goal is that you could see where you leave off clearly. So when you log in the next time, like this is exactly where you'll be, and things like that. Okay, so let's just finish off with the Targum here. Hit enter and enter. And as you could see, it's already coming together. Things are already lining up. I feel, I didn't mention in this video, but Hashem's name in the Targum has 3 yuds. And when you see it, then you could actually see how there's literally 3 yuds hiding, in Hashem's name, and all these cryptic things and everything, everywhere that leads, obviously. What else you see and all these meanings and concepts, and very important, without spoiling it, that it has to do with the full Torah. Just say it like that in a little form of a riddle, because it really plays like a video game where you really do not want spoilers. Once people are aware of what this information is, they would be so angry if someone were to spoil a movie or, Lehavdil, something like that. Okay, so here, we're continuing with the game, and this is, on the phone you could say it's even more therapeutic, because B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to incorporate the tab button on our Hebrew QWERTY keyboard, or implement it in the game, whichever one comes first, but obviously just to make the controls a little bit easier and mobile friendly, an app essentially. but that you do not need to download it. You'll be able to just log in from anywhere, any phone, any tablet, any whatever, and just be able to play the actual Torah Targum game. And this increases your days and years. So the way that we fulfill it is now, as we're lining up the Targum, we're looking back up at the Mikra, and then we're leaving the Targum under it, and so this is fulfilling then the second half of Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum, the second Mikra and Targum at least once. And if you have problems to zoom in, then it makes it much more, it makes it much easier. Okay, to click. Okay. So as you could see, we are weaving the Torah together. We've broken down the Torah text. We have the Targum now lined up, right? And then if I could demonstrate the color feature would be amazing. So let's see if let's refresh the page maybe and see. First of all, we'll test out, because again, we turn the autosave feature on, it should save all your progress. And so once it logs back in, here we are exactly, thank God, And now, thanks to our programmer, and now, okay, now it didn't glitch up. So now we have the keyboard and color feature, okay? And so what we can do now is to now highlight, so that's a little bit annoying with the Google highlighting also appearing above, so we might have to do a different design for mobile. Because our toolbar, when you highlight a word, it pops up all the tools and things that you need there. But here, something happened, and we're not getting the menu, the color menu. On the website itself, everything works fine. So if you're on a computer, if you're on anything like that, then you could use that and it'll work. But here you could already line up, and then if you want to then go back over and repeat to then color code. But this teaches you Aramaic. This shows you the deeper meaning of the Torah. This then unlocks for you the entire rest of Tanakh, which there are certain words in certain books that are parts are entirely in Aramaic. And then it switches and leads you and transitions you so perfectly into the Talmud, which begins with Aramaic. So you'll already understand how to read Talmud by the time you get there, chronologically following the order of Tanakh and the Braita in Pirkei Avot. A 5-year-old begins Mikra with Targum, obviously. Now the sages highlight and transmit with Targum, obviously. Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. That when you do Targum, there's a way to do it. Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. And Targum specifically in Aramaic. Specifically, Targum Unkelus on the Torah. There's no replacement for Targum. So it's a mistake that people are thinking that it's the same thing if they read a translation in another language, because that's really not what Aramaic is, and that's not what the point of Targum is. Targum is the meaning of the Torah. It's a separate kind of thing from the Torah. It's not translating the Torah words itself. It's giving you the partner, helper against him to the text. Ezer kenegdo, an avachad revelation. It might be written in earlier sources, so I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure that we've solved this mystery or applied this concept correctly. Literally, the Targum is the Ezer kenegdo to the Mikra. Ezer, helper, kenegdo, against him. Ezer, helper, when it's helping by explaining cryptic parts of the text, and kenegdo, against him, when it's highlighting seemingly synonymous words or these other words that exist, which make us pay attention. Oh wow, it's not this other word that exists, it's specifically this word to highlight how specifically God is speaking to us right now, because there's no synonyms in biblical Hebrew, as the sages transmit, as my father via Rabbi Simcha Feder, via the Carmel Rabbi Yosef Greenbaum, via the Gaon Malbim, the genius, the Malbim, Rabbi Meir Levush, and obviously the Vilna Gaon masters before the master at explaining the differences, masters at explaining the differences between words in biblical Hebrew. And that's exactly what we need, because in order to really understand even a single sentence, we have to understand every word. We have to understand, and not only every word, but every nuance. If a Torah scroll is missing one letter, or one symbol really, that's how it's translated across the planet. But if it's missing one symbol, the entire Torah is invalid. If it's one symbol is extra, the entire Torah is invalid. How many levels the sages ensure the authenticity of the Torah from Sinai, transmitted generation to generation, copied symbol by symbol, never from memory, following the thousands of rules that are transmitted to ensure that the entire Torah is here with us right now, thank God. And so every nuance is significant. Every then even vowel point beyond, this is already, and the te'amim, the really like punctuation, but it's so much more than that, obviously. Everything is so significant, so attention to detail is really like the name of the game. And it's supposed to, as you're doing this, is what's called occupying in Torah. It's supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to be giving us information. It's supposed to be inspiring new thoughts and getting us thinking about different things and trying to connect different dots and all these kinds of things. So it's really, truly an amazing experience, and especially pair it with a Hebrew QWERTY keyboard. You'll be able to type Hebrew easily on Windows as well, that we programmed. You could download on our site, and from the App Store, we have a link on our site as well, and all these things. If you like what we're doing here, then obviously you can consider getting the $5 a month membership for the unlocking the entire Tanakh, so you could learn in this fashion, have everything just ready to go in Ketav Ashurit. Track your progress, see how you understand better and better and deeper, and in a few days, in a few weeks, you'll be speaking Aramaic. That's, if you can read Hebrew and understand Hebrew, then that is what we claim to you. Thank you so much. I hope this was a very enjoyable video. In the end, recording on the mobile phone, we'll see how the audio and everything. Thank you so much. Kol Tov.